One more thing I want to say on this, Trey. I think a lot of parents and a lot of non-parents look at our public policy over the last 4 years and ask, how did we get to this place? How did we get to a place where Kamala Harris is calling for an end to the child tax credit?
The Democrats hate Israel. The Democrats largely hate the Jewish people. It's time for the Jewish people to step up and vote for Republicans and vote for Donald Trump, and we're going to save Israel. Thank you very much. We love you, Stanley. We love you, Stanley. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, of course, Trey. And you know, I was critical of the president back in 2015 and 2016, and he has looked at me as somebody who can contribute meaningfully to the future of the country, so he asked me to be his running mate. This is not a vengeful guy. The media lies about Donald Trump more than anybody I've ever seen in public life.
He has a new insult out this week that her and her husband have been using towards you, calling you weird. Does that hurt your feelings? How do you feel about that?
No, not at all. It doesn't hurt my feelings.
He has a new insult out this week that her and her husband have been using towards you, calling you weird. Does that hurt your feelings? How do you feel about that? Does that hurt your feelings? How do you feel about that? Does that hurt your feelings? How do you feel about that?
When she got elected to the U.S. Senate, I was the majority leader. I reached out to meet with her. Not once would she meet with me.
She doesn't have to go out there and sell sneakers or Bibles, you know? All she did was announce that she's running, and they said, where do we sign up?
And I think she's going to give Trump what he needs. He ain't ready for this one.
The level of energy is higher, and we just got to keep this up. We only have 100 days left. We can run through the finish line. Don't slow down, but keep going.
But what we are going to focus on, we're not going to be bothered by their nonsense. We're going to focus on the fundamental choice. The American people are going to see in Vice President Harris somebody who, whether they were a prosecutor standing up for women and girls, whether they were an attorney general taking on the big banks to get $20 billion for homeowners and their families, or somebody who, when they were in the Senate or as vice president, has stood up for reproductive rights, taken on the gun lobby, establishing the first White House Office of Gun Violence Prevention, has been a champion for working people. And on the other side, you got Donald Trump, who's a convicted felon fighting for himself. So that's the choice that we're going to make sure that the American people understand when they go to the ballot box in November.
Now, do you think that having Vice President Kamala Harris as the nominee dramatically changes Donald Trump's odds of winning?
I'm worried about it.
Yes.
I think she's going to go for the minority and female and younger voters.
Progressive. Everybody's excited about her, right, and that scares me.
Again, those are Trump voters. Joe Biden won. Okay, so a buyer's remorse. You just heard what Jason Miller had to say. Are you hearing that from Democrats?
Oh, my goodness. We are seeing more energy than I've ever seen in politics. I went this morning to what's supposed to be a ruby red county on this weekend of action. They were hoping there might be 50 people, and we had 300 plus. They are fired up. They don't want to go back. They want to move forward. They are excited about making Vice President Harris our next president. You see the fundraising. You see thousands upon thousands of people signing up to volunteer. She is on a roll. We're going to keep this energy up, and we are going to elect her as the next president of the United States.
Just in the past few days, Democrats have kind of organically settled on a new attack line against Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. Basically, these guys are just plain weird.
You know there's something wrong with people when they talk about freedom, freedom to be in your bedroom, freedom to be in your exam room, freedom to tell your kids what they can read. That stuff is weird. They come across weird. They seem obsessed with this.
We're using this fake living room to talk to you about a super weird idea from J.D. Vance.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, it's quite weird.
But what was weird was him joking about racism today and then talking about Diet Mountain Dew. Who drinks Diet Mountain Dew?
On the other side, they're just weird. I mean, they really are.
Some of what he and his running mate are saying, well, it's just plain weird.
In that environment, if people see Republicans not as the party that's trying to make it easier to have babies, but is just trying to take people's rights away. And I want to thank especially Kevin Roberts and all of the Heritage Foundation for 50 years of incredible work on conservative policy. You know, the old famous... It's funny because I think we're in her district right now. But I'm regularly asked by donors in Ohio whether I'd be willing to denounce MTG, Marjorie Taylor Greene, the congressman from, if not this part of Georgia, at least close by. And I would say, why? Why do you want me to denounce this person? Well, she believes these crazy things. Who cares? Believing crazy things is not the mark of whether somebody should be rejected. Believing important truths should be the mark.
Kamala, what are we going to say to Donald Trump in November?
Bye, bye, bye.
Look, I think Kamala Harris is exactly what Donald Trump is afraid of. Look, he's been talking about all of these issues on the border. She went down to South America, Central America, to try to help from the root of the problem, not the symptoms. If Donald Trump cared about the border, he wouldn't have blocked policies to change it.
We're going to move on.
This is the most consequential election of any of our lifetimes. And I would say that even to no matter what the age of the person is, because we're gonna decide major issues, as you've highlighted over and over again, on basic rights. We're also going to decide whether or not we're going to have a country that has a tax code that's going to invest in the middle class, invest in our kids, or whether we're going to have kind of a MAGA tax code where it all goes to the top, to billionaires and big corporations. So much is on the line, and I think the people of our state know that. They have a sense of it, and I've never seen a lift like we've seen just in the last couple of days. The only thing comparable is the early months or maybe the summer of 2008 when President Obama was running. It's the same kind of energy and dynamism that you hear from voters of all ages all across the board.
I mean, even before we had J.D. Vance, we know that the policies that they're pushing, the policies that are coming out of Project 2025 are nothing but attacks on women. As someone who is childless, I absolutely resent, all of the rhetoric that we're getting out of J.D. Vance. But what the American people need to think about is the very first big step that a nominee has to take. The very first big decision that they have to make is who their running mate will be. And the fact that Trump chose J.D. Vance tells you everything about his decision-making abilities that you need to know. He does not make good decisions. J.D. Vance is a disaster for Trump. That is exactly why they're hemorrhaging and they're panicking right now. I think that Trump decided that he just wanted someone who would pledge their fealty to him and say, hey, if it comes down to certifying the election, even if you lost, I'm going to do what Mike Pence didn't do, which is why I have to give Mike Pence credit, because when it came down to preserving who we are as Americans, it didn't become partisan. He absolutely put the United States over policies and rhetoric.
It's that Trump is a really bad candidate, and frankly, I think a really bad person.
Kamala.
Hello. Hi.
Hey there.
Oh, hi, you're both together. Oh, it's good to hear you both.
I can't have this phone call without saying to my girl Kamala, I am proud of you. This is going to be historic.
We called to say Michelle and I couldn't be prouder to endorse you and to do everything we can to get you through this election and into the Oval Office.
Oh my goodness. Michelle, Barack, this means so much to me. I am looking forward to doing this with the two of you, Doug and I both, and getting out there, being on the road. But most of all, I just want to tell you the words you have spoken and the friendship that you have given over all these years mean more than I can express. So thank you both. It means so much. And we're going to have some fun with this too, aren't we?
Okay, look, here's a situation. Let's say Roe versus Wade is overruled. Ohio bans abortion, in 2022 or let's say 2024. And then, every day, George Soros sends a 747 to Columbus to load up disproportionately Black women to get them to go have abortions in California. And of course, the left will celebrate this as a victory for diversity. That's kind of creepy.
Health justice is when we exterminate working class Black people. Yeah.
Something like that could, that would be a really weird turn of events that could happen. Yes.
And it's like, if that happens, do you need some federal response to prevent it from happening? Because it's really creepy. And, I'm pretty sympathetic to that, actually.
And this is really extreme. This J.D. Vance. Now, keep in mind, not 20 years ago, not when he was in college, just in the last few months as a United States Senator, he voted against protecting IVF. He voted against protecting contraception, birth control. And maybe the most telling vote of all, only 28 senators voted with him. He voted to allow law enforcement to get the medical records of women in America. He thinks it's okay for the police to get medical records. That's jaw-dropping to most swing voters. Not acceptable in America.
Madam Vice President, are you on TikTok?
Well, I've heard that recently I've been on the For You page, so I thought I'd get on here myself.
He didn't. He when it came to the vice president, referred to her as a childless cat lady. What did you think of that?
Yeah, again, I just think that's beneath the dignity of anybody who seeks to present themselves as a U.S. senator or any kind of leader in this country. And I'm not here to talk about campaigns and elections, so I'll just leave it at that. I think it speaks for itself.
I told you I would tell you why it's bad, maybe add a little bit of color, but also tell you why we're going to win. We are winning. There are a lot of victories that have been secured. Some of them are partial. Some of them in ways that the other side doesn't yet know are foundations for what's coming. And that's just the beginning. And we're not going to tell you everything that's coming. Because for the first time that I'm aware of, the conservative movement, or as I really like to put it, the common sense movement in the United States has really nothing to do with ideology, is ready to fight.
Well, the blue wall is very important, no doubt, to Democrats. And so, when J.D. Vance, frankly, attacks women, hides the fact that he is opposed to reproductive rights, even in cases of rape or incest. He's the Donald Trump mini-me. Donald Trump has done terribly in Illinois, and across the Midwest, there is a growing sense that J.D. Vance just doesn't stand where most Illinoisans and most Midwesterners stand.
But look, what I was basically saying is that we're effectively run in this country via the Democrats, via our corporate oligarchs, by a bunch of childless cat ladies who are miserable at their own lives and the choices that they've made, and so they want to make the rest of the country miserable too. And it's just a basic fact. You look at Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg, AOC, the entire future of the Democrats is controlled by people without children. And how does it make any sense that we've turned our country over to people who don't really have a direct stake in it? I just wanted to ask that question and propose.
President Biden and Vice President Harris inherited a public health catastrophe, an economic catastrophe, and a democracy catastrophe at the same time. And under the leadership of President Biden, in partnership with Vice President Harris, House Democrats and Senate Democrats have turned things around in order to create a brighter future for the American people. That's the Democratic track record. Extreme MAGA Republicans have been in the majority for over 18 months. Can anyone name a single thing that extreme MAGA Republicans in the House have done in order to make life better for the American people? A single thing that they have done. You can't. As many House Republicans, like the distinguished gentleman from Texas, the Honorable Chip Roy, have pointed out, you can't name a single thing that extreme MAGA Republicans have done on their own to make life better for the American people. They are incapable of governing. And so there's a big difference between the leadership of President Biden, Vice President Harris, House Democrats, and Senate Democrats, and the chaos, dysfunction, and extremism that we've consistently seen from House Republicans.
Listen, there is so much excitement in the Democratic Party right now. I have not seen this much mobilization and energy in such a short window of time. Probably not since, you know, the Obama convention time, right? When people saw him in that stadium, and there was so much energy across the party. But we see that right now in the Democratic Party, and it's amazing. And we're just trying to. This is the great thing. For the last 3.5 years, thanks to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, we've been able to rebuild all of the parties in our 50 states so that they can now accommodate this energy and focus this energy into doing the grassroots activities that are necessary to win these close elections. And that's what we're going to do. And that's a stark contrast to the Republican Party that doesn't have any field offices, that don't have any ground game.